Hello everyone, good afternoon. Today we will talk about the comparative and superlative adjective, then present simple and present continuous, and of course going to and infinitive of verbs. So we will go step by step. Okay, firstly our 9th unit is about the comparative and superlative adjective. Firstly, what is comparative adjective? Comparatives are used to show the difference between two objects, and superlative adjectives are used to show the difference between more than two objectives. So let's learn about that. Firstly, we have an explanation about the comparative adjective. So if we have an adjective and it has just one syllable, then we have to er at end of this adjective. For example, small and hard. So we have to add e and r after the adjective. For example, small, smaller, and hard, harder. So look at the pictures. We have a hippo and ant. So what here we have to compare two animals. Firstly, the ant, for example, is smaller than hippo. Next one. We have a second rule in comparative adjective. So if one syllable adjective ends with consonant vowel, so we have to make it sentence double consonant vowel. For example, big. It ends with consonant vowel, that's why we have to make it double. For example, we have a G, that's why we have to make it double G. For example, big, bigger, and fat, fatter. So look at the pictures. We have elephant and giraffe. So how can we compare these two animals? The elephant is fatter than the giraffe. Okay, let's talk about the third rule. If an adjective ends with y, we cannot use the y. That's why we have to cross y. Instead of the y, we have to use I, then er. For example, happy ends with y and funny ends with y. So how can we make it comparative, happy and funny? For example, happy, happier, we don't use y, and funny, funnier. So let's compare that girl and duck. Look at their face. The girl is happier than the duck. So if adjective has two syllables or more without y, then what we have to add more before the adjective, so we cannot use er after the adjective. For example, you know we have expensive, beautiful, and satisfactory. They have more than two. That's why we have to use more before each subject. More expensive, more beautiful, and more satisfactory. I think it's clear until here. So the last one, we have some few exceptions. So good, bad, and far. These words, when we use this word in comparative adjective, these words completely change their form in comparative adjective. For example, if we want to use good, we have to make it better, bad, worse, and far, farther. But don't forget about the then when we use comparative adjective. For example, the Toyota is smaller than the Ford. Here we have to compare two cars, but here Toyota is smaller than. We don't have to forget about then after the adjective. Or second one, the Ford is bigger than the Toyota. That's why always we have to use then after the adjective in comparative. So what is superlative adjective? As we mentioned that in superlative adjective, if we have one syllable adjective, so we have to add after the adjective est. For example, we have small and hard, and if we want to make it superlative adjective, we have to use est. For example, small, the smallest, and hard, the hardest. So let's make it as an example. For example, the ant is the smallest. Why we use the before the smallest? Because the ant is smallest one and we don't have any animal the smallest rather than ant. That's why we have to use the article. because it's obvious. That's why we have to use the article before the adjective. And here we have a rule third. If an adjective ends with y, we have to what? We have to remove y as a comparative adjective, and instead of y, we have to use what? I, e, and st. For example, you know we have happy and funny. They both of them ends with y. That's why we have to remove y. For example, happy, happiest, then funny, funniest. Let's give an example. The elephant is the heaviest animal. Let's continue. So, in superlative adjective also, we have more than 2 syllable adjectives. That's why we cannot use just est. That's why we have to use most before each adjective. You know, in comparative adjective, we use more. In superlative adjective, we have to use most. For example, most beautiful, most expensive, and most satisfactory. For example, London is the most beautiful city in the world. And of course, we have few exceptions in the superlative adjective as a comparative. For example, good, bad, and far. If we want to make it superlative, good, for example, good, it changes the form into the best. The bad, it means the worst, and far, the farthest. And we have and have got. You know, have got and have, their meaning is different when we say that, but their form is completely different with each other. When you hear the have and have got, their meaning are maybe same, but form is very different. For example, have got. If we use have got in our sentence, we have to use not in negative form, have got. For example, she has got a garden, it is the positive one, and I haven't got a garage. Here, just we have to use not after the have. But when we use have, we have to use do and does in negative and question form. For example, I have a cat. So have and have got means it means possession, it's ownership. And when we use negative one, he doesn't have a car. Look here. Here we have used just not, but here we have to use does not. This is the difference between have got and has. Then, of course, in our book we have an unfamiliar word in our text. So, I catch some words, for example, skyscraper. It means that it's very tall building, so it has a great number of floors. You know, if we imagine that it is a little bit closest to the sky, that's why it's called skyscraper. And research. What does it mean, research? Research, for example, to search something or to seek carefully. It means what? For example, if we want to research about the tea, for example, I have to ask some questions from the people. Which kind of tea mostly consumed by people? Green tea or black tea? That's why I do, for example, research, and I got some information. So this is the research. And obviously, it means clear and easily understandable. And disadvantage. Disadvantage means weakness, or we don't have any advantage. It means weaknesses.